sanctified, I think is, to make it very simple, in my mind, I think forgiveness and sanctification are the two things that we'll be focusing on. That's what we'll be talking about. Hebrews 13 and 12 says, "Wherefore Jesus also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate." That's why he died. That's what it's about. So I was want to give you a little history. Some of you might know. Probably nobody here knows all that I have here. But our church, Christ Sanctified Holy Church, was formed in 1892 in Shinnecock, Virginia. It was an evangelist church. It was the spread the gospel, but anyway, to spread a message or to sell a product, you traveled. They moved from place to place. We had, many of you never experienced that. Traveling sales, where they go from house to house. Unless you were in town, that was the way it was. Probably when I came along around 1937, I'm not sure telephones were even invented by that time. They might have. But as I come along a little later on, when I was able to recognize it, many of them had a ring. You just dialed the ring, held the phone, and they've advanced a long ways. The internet and TV was way off. So our people traveled, and so that's how we moved around the country spreading the gospel. That's the way it was spread. In 1955, my parents moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. My dad was a home builder, but his purpose was to spread the gospel of forgiveness and sanctification. So in so doing, when we came, we started out in a rented store building in what is now known as Lizard Lick, and then in the summertime, we put up a tent. We had a tent that we moved from place to place in the summertime, and when it came wintertime, we built a portable tabernacle. It was panels that you could put up in one day, or you could take it down one day, put it up in the next place in one day. So for several years, that was the manner of which we went to church. That was our church. We went to had a tent meeting in Morrisville. I can't remember exactly the year. Probably around 58, maybe somewhere. We had a tent meeting in Morrisville. A lady, a couple. We had really good success. A lot of people came out, were very interested, and said, "If you'll put a church here, I will give you an acre of land." And so that they did. But prior to that, I believe it was probably 1956, we put a tent on Mr. Charlie Adams' land. Charlie Adams, right down 42. If you go past the old stage road on the left, there's a cemetery with a little fence around it. There's a one-story house that sits back in there, and that was Mr. Charlie and Mr. John Q. Adams' home place. That's where they were raised, and at that time, nobody was there. So they let us put a tent up, and we did, and had really good success. People that came out that we met at that time was Bob and Pearl Boland, and probably some a descendant of them here today. Junior and Betty Lawrence, which many of you know. Obviously Junior's dead. Betty still lives down the street. Then her family, Betty Lawrence was Linda K. Fuller's sister. And so that's just a couple, but we had good success at that place, and then we moved on around Raleigh and Durham. I don't know, the only thing was even called a triangle at that time. But anyway, around the county, we had moved the tabernacle, and so then after we built the church in Morrisville, and when I got married in 1966, Linda moved to Raleigh. Most of the people had left. They had moved away. There were a few of us here still having church sometimes. So we, from Morrisville, Jimmy and Linda Fuller came out, Jerry and Sue Fuller, Lindman and Deborah Allen came in and got sanctified and served with us, and there's others that I just can't think of. And we had service there until by 1972. We built a church in Cary, North Carolina. It was kind of back this way, close to, it was on Walnut Street actually, and on Walnut Street, not far from where US 1 crosses. The church was, as we began to maximize our use of the church, the town of Cary said they need to widen Walnut Street, so they took part of our parking out, made it too small, so we sold it and moved to North Raleigh. The location now is a cookout restaurant on that particular location. So, and to give an idea on when they built the church in Cary, it was built with volunteers. The chief volunteers was Jimmy Fuller and Linwood Allen. They were there every Saturday and working, and Linwood would be there before Jimmy and I'd get there. We'd tell him to be there at 8 o'clock, but he was there working, cleaning up, and so we built the church in Cary about 1972, and that's the one I told you that we outgrew it and moved to Strickland Road, and the one in Strickland Road was built in 1994. The church in Strickland Road, Richard Denson did the site work. Richard is one of the guys that attends our Bible study here, lives down the road. He did the grading for the site work on the Strickland Road church, and that now has been about, we opened in March of 1995, so that's 28 years ago. The new church, 28 years ago. So I want to go back a little bit and talk about, as we moved around from 1955 to 1972, when the first place was built, we built benches. They were out of, one was 6s, one was 12 and whatever. And we built an altar bench. And this is that altar bench. This is the altar bench that moved. That was the Raleigh Church altar bench from 1955 to 1972. I kept it for whatever. So in the altar, this is the altar bench that Bob and Pearl Bowling went to the altar on. Junior and Betty Lawrence back when it was back here, and several more, and I can't. But then when it was in Morrisville, Jimmy and Linda and Jerry and Sue, and I was hoping Jerry would be here. I don't know. Sue has passed away. Linwood and Deborah, many more, have used this altar bench for that time. So it's, we're thankful for it. Thankful for everyone. Not everybody, when they first got sanctified, kept their vow. That's the way. But some have come back. Some have come back and said, I want to renew my vow. And there's opportunity here for anyone in this neighborhood. If you hadn't made a vow, it's time to do it. If you have made the vow and you've slipped, let's come back to it and do what the Lord would have us to do. Amen. We'll let Kenneth finish it.
Song number 408. I think most everybody should do it. 408. Better put my glasses on that. Give her a chance to get there.
I heard an old story, how the Savior came from glory. I gave his life on Calvary to save a wretch like me. I heard about his groaning, of his precious blood atoning. Then I repented of my sins and won the victory. with his redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew him. All my love is to him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. And I heard about his healing, of his cleansing power revealing, how he made the lame to walk again, caused the blind to see. And then I cried, dear Jesus, come and heal my broken spirit. And somehow Jesus came and brought to me the victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior. Forever he saw me and he bought me with his redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew him, and all my love is to him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. I would imagine that song had probably been sung in this church a few times over the years since they opened it back in the 1950s, would be my guess. Enjoyed Brother Frank's history lesson. And I was thinking, as he mentioned that, wouldn't you love for somebody to give you an acre of land in Morrisville today? Back then, that was before the Research Triangle Park. Land you probably couldn't even give it away back then in Morrisville. But that's basically how our church has gotten to where it is people volunteering, people donating, that type of thing. And that's part of what I get to talk about today. We set out, I guess when we started talking about this meeting here today, we wanted to talk about the who, the what, the how, the when, the where, the why. I think that's what we set out to do. So we want to talk a little bit about that. I think Brother Frank defined it very well as to who we are, and the history of how our church got started. And it seems I shouldn't say ironic, but 1956, they're right down the road, and here we are back again, right? And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. How do we operate? We've got a little sheet that we kind of put some notes on. I'll probably follow it, but I'm not really good at following agendas and sheets if you know me very well. And by the way, like we talk about on the Tuesday night Bible study, if you have questions or want to speak up, that's quite all right. It's not a problem. We can do it that way. We are going to have kind of a question and answer session here at the end. What to expect from our services? Brother Frank mentioned that they built the church on Strickland Road in 1994, opened in 95. We're basically an extension of that ministry. Yeah. We in 2006 we started having singings on Saturday night over on the Jordan Roadhouse, and Brother Charles and Sister Faye used to come to that along with other people. We actually built the ramp on the back of the house on Jordan Road so Sister Faye could get into the house once she got into the wheelchair.
I'm using it.
Now Linda's using it. We used to call it the Faye Rogers ramp. Was what we named it. So she could get in and out of the house for Bible study. And even during that time, Michelle Godwin came and got sanctified at the house. Knelt right there at the coffee table and got sanctified right there in the house. Over time, that kind of began to wane a little bit, and then when Sister Linda Kay passed away, thank goodness Brother Jimmy decided he wanted to rededicate himself to serving the Lord. We never know what it's going to take to bring us to God, but all that matters is that it brings us to God, right? I believe it was Clay that mentioned this morning at church, he was talking about Dennis and Linda Godwin. Most of you guys know them from our Tuesday night Bible study because they join us online every Tuesday night. But the faith that they have to be encouraged even with all they've been through. And his brother Dennis and I have talked through the years. He's like, where else can I go?
That's right.
He said, I've been out in the world. I've tried everything out there. He said, there's nothing there. So where else could I go? So, but thankful Brother Jimmy decided to rededicate his life. And that's how we ended up having our Bible studies. Now, I'm not here to do the history lesson. Brother Frank's already done that. But that's how we did the Bible study. And not too long ago, what was it, Mike? August? I think it was. We started looking for a place to have our Tuesday night Bible study because we'd kind of outgrown Brother Jimmy's sitting area. Sister Pam's been there. She knows if everybody showed up, there wasn't room for everybody to sit, right? Isn't that right, Andy? So we kept riding around and kept coming right back to this place. And it was empty. Sitting empty. You mentioned Richard Denson. His son-in-law attended here one Tuesday night for the Bible study right before Christmas. He's a Wake County Sheriff's deputy, and he said he's been riding by here for 20 years and never seen a light on in the building. So let's turn the lights on. Most importantly, let's bring the light of Jesus Christ. The Bible tells us that let his light so shine through us that they may see our good works and glorify the Father which is in heaven. So that's part of the reason that we're here. So what to expect from our services? We're an extension of the ministry on Strickland Road. We believe the Bible contains everything we need to know to please God and make it from this life to a home in heaven. And I believe if you take the Bible, everything that we need to know to get from here to home in heaven is contained within these 66 books, right? We don't need anything else.
That's right.
That's the bottom line. In our church, we use the King James Version. Lots of things we can say about that, but I'm going to leave it at there. That's one reason why we believe that you really have to have your Bible studies. You have to get into the Word to know what the Word's telling us, right? So while we are planning on starting to have Sunday morning services, our weekly get-togethers, our weekly Bible studies are just as important, if not more so, than just getting together on Sunday mornings. Because that's when you really get into the Word, right? They didn't ask me to say all that. In our church, we sing a cappella, just like we've been doing here. For some of us, that's good. For some of us, that's not so good. But that's the way we sing. And part of it is, just to give a little background, as Brother Frank said, when our original founding forefathers left the island of Chincoteague traveling on boats, I imagine it would have been a little hard to transport musical equipment from the boat to the land and back to the boat and that type of thing. Just my assumption. Another part of it is the way we conduct our services is we let the Spirit lead. We may not necessarily know what song we're going to sing next. If Brother Chip feels like starting a song, he starts a song. It'd be kind of hard, Sister Linda, unless you knew all the songs to know what to play with it. If you were going by sheet music, it'd be kind of hard to be flipping through to find sheet music to figure out what it is you're supposed to be playing. That's another reason. We believe in having a Spirit-led service. Didn't have to say that either. We do clap our hands along with the beat. We do pat our feet, stomp our feet, that type of thing. That's kind of how we run our services. We don't have a choir. Everybody's the choir. Everybody needs to participate. Now, my wife would tell me she's not one to stand up and testify. But you can participate in a church in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
Inviting people out. Being present.
Yeah.
any number of ways that you can participate in church. Typically for church, the ones that want to stand up, support the person testifying. We do have an open pulpit. I guess we deleted that from what we were talking about because I don't see it on my notes here. But we do have an open pulpit. We encourage personal testimonies. I want to hear your testimony.
That's right.
I want to hear what the Lord's done for you this week. I want to hear how the Lord's blessed you, Brother Jimmy. That encourages everybody when we testify, right? We're not necessarily going to have the same person bring the message every Sunday. It's probably going to be a group of people that bring the message. Told me not to necessarily say this, but I'm saying it anyway. We don't necessarily have paid positions in our church. We're all volunteer. And what happens if you have a volunteer service-oriented business and no one shows up? Nothing happens, right? Nothing happens. But that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed it's done for me through the years is it keeps me in the Word. Keeps me in the Word to help me grow spiritually, to help me grow in my walk with the Lord, which is the most important thing. But the last thing I want to do is go to church and not bring anything to the service. I want to be able to bring something to the service. And the more I have found through the years, the more I come in with something to bring to the service, I usually leave with a whole lot more than I came in with, right?
Yeah.
So we encourage you to stay in the Word. At least initially, basically the way our services are run, we have somebody that we call that will be kind of run the service, that will kind of, make sure songs are started and calling somebody to preach, calling somebody to pray, that type of thing. Initially, that's going to be Brother Chip, Brother Frank, and myself. We'll kind of spread it around, but hopefully as we grow and get more people coming in, other people can take that responsibility, is the hope. Hope's not a plan. That's what's going to happen. I mentioned we don't have paid positions in the church, but that doesn't mean that the lights automatically come on by themselves, right? Duke Power likes to get paid. They don't donate the energy to us, I should say. The oil in the ground out here that runs the furnace, because it's kind of nice and warm in here now, it just doesn't automatically appear, right? The rent on the building, that doesn't automatically happen, right? But we don't pass a collection plate. There are envelopes out front that people can make donations to the church and do it that way. Most of the time, we don't even mention money in church. It should be more about your spiritual growth. That's what we like to dwell on. Once again, we are volunteer. All responsibilities of the ministry are volunteer. We invite testimonies, but initially we're kind of looking at a few things we're going to need, positions we're going to need to fill to kind of make things happen. We're going to need Sunday school teachers. We're thinking we've got room for 4 Sunday school classes, right? We got the sanctuary here, which we're thinking to be more of us older people will be up here, so we don't have to walk steps with our bad knees. In the basement, if you've been down there, if you hadn't, I encourage you to go down. We've kind of developed 2 Sunday school rooms. One's a much smaller room that we plan on using for the younger children. We don't know what age groups we're going to have yet, but we're thinking the smaller kids, probably somewhere from the age of 1 to 10 maybe or whatever. Then the larger Sunday school room we'll use for the preteens, teens, if you will. And then the fellowship hall would be in between that group and this group up here. So we're going to need volunteers for Sunday school teachers. How about facility maintenance? How are we going to take care of the facility? Who's going to be responsible for changing light bulbs? Anybody ever been involved in facility maintenance before? So we're going to need those kind of things, right? It takes volunteers to make things happen. Vacuum the carpet. There's more to it than just being in the pulpit and preaching. It takes all of us working together. And I'm excited about it. I think it's a great opportunity. I think that's how you build a community of believers that come together and work together and take ownership in what you do. So that's some of my thoughts. Now, I do want to turn things around and ask you guys some questions. What is something we can do to get involved in the community? What's some community involvement type things that's available in Willow Spring, North Carolina? I don't know. I know I like eating at the food truck across the street. But y'all think about it. Get back to us. Anything else I was supposed to cover? Any comments? Any questions?
One thing I would
Go ahead.
add maybe a little bit too is,
Sure.
is the one thing we want to see everyone do is individual spiritual growth. That's our goal. We're not, it's not our services, for those of y'all who have seen them, it's not entertainment value, it's encouraging individual spiritual growth. And so while they have the Bible study here on Tuesday nights, we'd like to see a Bible study start up soon with ladies on a different night. Shelley and Cheyenne just had to leave to go. They do one in wherever it is
Smithfield.
Cheyenne lives, Smithfield, on Sunday nights. But there may be another night during the week that people want to get together. We're going to encourage people getting together in prayer and Bible study, praying for this effort and being a part of it and studying the Bible together and growing closer together as a community as we go. And I think that's something that we're hoping as we grow, even the Bible study that's here on Tuesday, if it continues to grow, there's opportunity for a couple of them, and so we can keep the intimacy and keep the ability to have conversation and grow closer to each other and grow much closer to Christ spiritually as we go down this journey.
Yeah, Anna was excited because there was 6 ladies here this afternoon.
Yeah.
Right? She used to be the only one here. Pam's been here, but 6 women here. That's enough to start a Bible study right there, right? We also want to do, Andy and I were talking a couple weeks ago, we want to do things like Sunday morning pancake breakfast in the basement. Saturday morning pancake breakfast. We want to do an oyster roast here in February like we did the pig picking back in October. I mean, we want to do things as a community to get together other than just come Sunday morning, check the box, and go back home. Right? Questions? Comments?
How many teachers per class?
I would say at least 2, but we could do even more than that. Because in my line of work, I mean, I'm really only off every other weekend. So it's unfortunate, but that's just the nature of what I do.
So anybody wants to volunteer, see Kenneth.
And one thing I think coming out of here, I've had Shelley bring me some paper before she left, but if anybody has an idea of who they know that might be coming, so we can be prepared that first Sunday for Sunday school or whatever, so we know how many,
What age groups?
what age groups that might be here that first Sunday. It'd be great to know, so we know specifically what we need. We've got, we have a group, I think, in the Raleigh church who have volunteered to put the Sunday school rooms together and pull lesson plans together and get it all set up for us. So we just have to show up and use their lessons and prayerfully teach these children that we have the opportunity to about Jesus. And that's one thing. If any, it'd be great if y'all have any idea of that, to sign up and say, okay, I think there's going to be this, from each family that's represented here. We can glean a little bit, so we at least can be mostly prepared.
Yeah, the pig picking we had back in October, the front bench here was full of kids sitting out here singing Sunday school songs as London was playing the piano. They were excited And I would imagine it's probably been years since this facility has had the laughter of children running through here and singing and playing and having a good time. And we want more of that. We want more of that. We do have a couple volunteers, Brother David, Brother Matthew, excuse me, that have volunteered to work on our visual, or audio system, I should say. The people that were here before us do have some equipment here that's in fairly decent shape. Is that what y'all saying? When they painted the speakers they had hanging up here, they took the speakers down and cut the speaker wires. So they're kind of starting over from the box back there. That's something I know nothing about. So I'm glad we've got people that know something about it that's going to volunteer. We're also in the process of having internet run. Spectrum has come and run a cable that is out here now. They just haven't come back to put it into the building so we can get internet going. That's going to help with the Tuesday night Bible studies that we're doing online. A lot of people join us online. Brother Jay and Sister Christy join us online a lot from the campground. We appreciate them being here. Looking forward to y'all being here for the next 6 months to help us out. But that's kind of who we are as a church. We have churches that are associated all over the southeastern United States, and we pull together to help out and to make things happen. So we appreciate y'all being here. Anything else?
I do have a question. When is the first Sunday morning service?
That's a good question. It was going to be this coming Sunday, which would have been the 15th, but we have moved that back to the 22nd of January. Due to unfortunate circumstances, I don't know that some of us will be in town on the 15th. Bible studies will still be happening on Tuesday night, though. I will not be sending out the invitation this Tuesday night, but it will be held in person right here. So it will not be available online. Good question. At least somebody had a question. Any other questions?
I just want to say that, we want to become part of the community
Correct.
here. And the only way that's going to happen is for y'all to help us with that. And just tell people, invite people out. Let's start off with a good group of people and let the Lord do his work. We just got to bring people in because God is going to do the work here.
That's right.
Comments? All right, let's stand and close with song number 234.